What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for watching. Today we are going to be discussing the Mark 22 military sniper rifle, or the Barrett MRAD as the civilian version is known. One of my all-time favorite long-range precision rifles. I also despise this thing for a couple reasons that we'll get to in a minute, but overall I think it's a good gun and a very interesting concept. However, as much as I love this rifle, I've been seeing videos circulating on the internet over the last few weeks of the Mark 22 that we have here basically going full Sig P320 and having uncommanded discharges after failures to fire. If there's one rule in the firearms world, you never go full Sig P320. Now, to be fair, I guess it's not technically an uncommanded discharge because it is happening after a trigger press. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second, but either way, it's definitely not normal, and it's something I want to explore in this video. And by the way, I love Barrett. I've never had a single issue with any Barrett product that I own. I think overall they make really good stuff. So this is not me going at Barrett as a company, but clearly something is going on with these Mark 22s. And this is a rifle that's being used by several military branches at this point. So I think it's kind of important. Now, I've probably got a couple hundred rounds through this rifle at least, and I've never had a single failure. So obviously I've never had this issue happen to me, but today we're gonna shoot it and see if we can get this malfunction to happen. The 338 Lapua is like $5 a round at this point, so please share this video with everyone you know because I might be homeless after the amount of money we're spending on ammo today. All right, before we start shooting, I'm gonna go ahead and try and demonstrate what these uncommanded discharges look like, although again, they're not technically uncommanded because they are happening after a trigger press. But from what I understand is guys will chamber around, which I'm not gonna do right here. Get behind the rifle, take the safety off, pull the trigger, and nothing will happen. On most of the videos, I don't even hear that click that we just heard right there. So, like most rifles, the Mark 22, you cannot return the gun to safe after the trigger has been pulled, which kind of tells me that at the very least, the hammer is being released enough to prevent the safety from being actuated. Because in the videos I've seen, they're not able to return the gun to safe. They wait 10, 20, 30 seconds, however long you would wait for a hang fire. When they go up to eject the unfired round and just barely touch that bolt, the gun goes off. So it's almost like something is getting stuck internally and just barely grazing the charging handle is enough to release it and fire the cartridge that's in the chamber. That's not good.
All right, so you pulled the trigger, right?
Pulled the trigger.
Apply safe.
Weapons on fire. Won't go to safe. Will not go to safe.
All right, make it safe. Track your bolt a little bit. Going safe. That is ridiculous.
Oh, I thought you said 372.
Click.
Yep.
Bolt handles.
Thank you. All right, go ahead and cycle the bolt. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
It's recording.
First round.
Now, I saw some people on Reddit saying that these were hang fires. I strongly disagree with that. A hang fire is ammo related where the gun does everything right, the primer is struck, and there's just a delay in the gunpowder igniting, usually if the cartridge is wet or messed up. It's not very common with factory ammo. This is a failure to fire where the primer is not being struck when the trigger is pressed, and then just grazing the bolt ever so slightly is enough to release whatever's stuck and fire that live round that's in the chamber, which again, in my opinion, is an uncommanded discharge because this is the trigger, this is not. You should not be able to fire a round just by touching the bolt. It also doesn't help that you're not able to turn the safety back on after the trigger's been pressed because that means you're basically forced to shoot the round at that point. And these are not little 22s that we're talking about. These are very big, powerful rifles that are capable of going miles. So if you're not expecting the round to go off and you're not exactly sure where it's going, that's a huge liability for obvious reasons. And I did make a P320 joke in the beginning of the video. I just could not help myself. Obviously, I wouldn't put the Mark 22 quite on the level of what's been happening with the P320. You actually have to pull the trigger to get the Mark 22 to go off. So again, Barrett's a company I respect. I would not be buying $10,000 and $15,000 rifles from them if I didn't. And I imagine they're working hard to quickly resolve this issue. So I got a bunch of targets out here, some fun stuff we're gonna shoot. The main thing I want to accomplish in today's video is to see if we can get this malfunction to happen with our Barrett MRAD. But in the process, we'll shoot some targets and demonstrate the power of the 338 Lapua. Let's do it. All right, first 5 rounds. You can see how big those 338 Lapuas are. I've got a paper target, probably 50 yards downrange. Again, never had a single issue with this rifle, so I'm not expecting it to happen, but maybe we'll get lucky. And you'll notice every time I shoot this thing, I have my hand up here covering up that hinge. Don't want to lose my teeth. 5 rounds, here we go. Hey, that was not a failure to fire. Damn, this thing is powerful. Two for 2. The trigger is incredible in this thing. I've got to say, such a good caliber. Four down, 1 to go. All right, 5 for 5. No failures to fire. Damn it. Well, I wasn't even really shooting for accuracy, but I've got to say, look at that group. One big hole at 50 yards away. Not bad. And if you haven't seen our other videos on the 338 Lapua, definitely go back and watch them. We've done some pretty fun stuff with this rifle. I can't remember if it was 500 or 700 yards, but I smoked a ballistic dummy head very first shot. Might not seem long range to some of you guys, but for me it was, so. I've never had accuracy issues with the Mark 22. Well, I was at the store yesterday and I came across this salt block. I'm not exactly sure how heavy this thing is. It might say on the front, yeah, 50 pounds. That's about what I was gonna guess. This thing is very heavy and a very dense target. So we're gonna see what the 338 Lapua does to it. All right, we're gonna use hollow points for this, 300 grain open tip match. I've got 3 of them in the magazine. Probably won't need all of them. If there's anything left of our salt block when we're done, we'll just leave it for the deer. Come on, baby, give me a failure. 338 Lapua versus salt block. Let's see what it does. Yep, completely exploded it. Exactly what I thought was gonna happen. Well, I was kind of hoping that we might get a straight pass through and our salt block would stay intact. Unfortunately, that is not what happened. It is all over the place. Oh my God, that is our bullet. It's extremely hot. Probably should have known better than to do that. I want to show you guys this thing, but it's just way too hot. That is our entire 338 Lapua, still intact, and a 50-pound salt block stopped that bullet. Definitely did not expect that. Look at that thing, dude. That might be one of the only times I've ever stopped a 338 Lapua. Definitely in this condition. That is crazy. Okay, I never imagined a salt block would be that bulletproof. We might have to get another one of these and try it with the 50 BMG, because it absolutely stopped the 338 Lapua. And that's not an easy round to stop, trust me. All right, we got 2 more rounds. We'll go ahead and finish them off on a 2-liter and a watermelon. Watermelon first. Always good. It's a miracle that 2-liter even stayed upright, but let's go ahead and take it out. Or maybe we'll get a failure. Probably not, but here we go. Well, something hit the Texas Star. I sure hope it wasn't a 338 Lapua, because if it did, that plate is ruined. Well, it looks like the bullet actually did hit our Texas Star plate. You can see that tiny little ding right there towards the top, but I imagine the bullet probably expanded and lost a lot of its energy going through that liquid. Got lucky. And obviously there's not much left of our watermelon to look at the damage, but we can check out the 2-liter. So there's the entrance hole right there on the front and the exit hole. Big difference. Well, I'm dramatically losing hope that we're gonna get this malfunction to happen on video for you guys, but I'm not giving up quite yet. All right, guys, I went ahead and opened this rifle up and looked inside just to see if I notice anything that might be causing this issue. It's obviously kind of hard to know for sure. The Mark 22 does have an adjustable trigger, and some people are speculating online that that might be the culprit. Like maybe people are setting the triggers too light and that's what's causing the uncommanded discharges. Really not sure. They also make these rifles with 1- and 2-stage triggers. Ours has the 2-stage trigger, easily identifiable by the adjustment screw on top. So it's also a possibility that it's just one or the other that's having this problem. Again, really not sure, but I went ahead and set our trigger to as light as it can go. It was already pretty dang light from the factory, but we're gonna shoot it like this and see if we have any problems. So far we have had 0 failures, but we're not giving up yet. All right, guys, we're out here at about 100 yards. I'm gonna shoot a few rounds on steel with our new trigger adjustment and see if anything happens. I think I've got 5 in the magazine. So I've also been just dry firing this thing over and over again, seeing if we can get the failure to happen. And it does not appear to be having any issues. So one thing I will say is when you pull the trigger, the bolt does move quite a bit, especially if it's not all the way into battery. When you pull the trigger, it will kind of slam it down, which is a good thing. You want the gun to be into battery when you fire it, but that could explain the connection between people touching the bolt and the rounds going off when they're not supposed to. So I might have to replace the gong after this. I don't think it's rated for 338 Lapua, but I guess we'll find out. Dude. I don't know if I've ever heard a steel impact like that in my life. What a tank. God. Yeah, I think there's gonna be some holes in that gong when we get down there. We got a clay pot to the left of it. You guys probably can't see nothing down there. We'll see if we can hit it. It looks tiny. I think we got it. Couple more on steel. Our steel plate is completely flipped around. Now I'm shooting the back of it. That's one of the most incredible sounds I've ever heard in my life. Last round, here we go. All right. Well, even lightening the trigger did not induce the failure to fire, unfortunately. I mean, obviously I'm glad I don't have a defective rifle, but I did kind of want it to happen so I could show you guys on camera what it looks like. Either way, there's a bunch of videos out there of this happening. I assumed it was a very small percentage of these rifles that were affected anyway, but clearly ours does not have that problem, at least not yet. Well, surprisingly, it looks like it actually took them pretty well. It did knock off paint from probably the last couple of years. That gong's like 3 different colors now, so just the energy alone was enough to knock all the paint off, but the impacts are actually not that bad. There's tiny little dents. This one over here is definitely the worst. You can see that one left a pretty good dent. And then I'm not even sure where the ones on the back hit, but we do have a couple little dents right there in the middle. Either way, I thought it would be a little bit worse. All right, guys, we have a goose that just flew onto the property. So before we get out of here, we are gonna take him out with a 338 Lapua. I think it's actually a duck, but I'm gonna pretend it's a goose because these things attack me every time I go to the golf course. I absolutely hate them, so. Let's see what a 338 Lapua does to it. I think that took care of him. Well, guys, I think I've tried just about all that I can. Unfortunately, we were not able to induce this malfunction in our Mark 22 today. I've been kind of joking throughout the video like I wanted it to happen so I could show you guys on camera, but I honestly assume it's probably not an issue with 90% of these rifles. If this was happening constantly in military training, they would probably recall this thing because it is definitely not a good malfunction to have. Truthfully, I've never had a single issue with my Mark 22, so obviously like 90% of these rifles are probably good to go, but it is something to be aware of if you're looking to buy a Barrett MRAD, and that's really why I made the video. These are not cheap rifles at all. Like I said, this one was like $5 or $6 grand. The multi-caliber packages are 15 to 20. So just something to be aware of if you're looking at the Mark 22. And if you're a lefty, avoid this gun like the plague because it will knock all your teeth out. And I'm sure we probably spent a couple $100 in ammo today because the 338 Lapua is stupid. So please share this video and help it get into the algorithm so that I can afford to eat food this week. Love y'all. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know down in the comments below and hit the like button for me, guys. I would really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.